Happy New Year, everybody, and welcome to 2021. Who knew we would make it through this crazy year? So congratulations, and hopefully this year will treat us all so much better than last year did. And I know for some of us, there were still some good things that happened last year. I know for me, I had a beautiful daughter who's now 9 months old. Crazy, but hopefully this year will still treat us much better than last year did. And if it doesn't, well, we're gonna give it our best shot. With any new year, I think a lot of us reach for the new. We want change, we want something better than it was the year before, and we want to grow, we want to improve. And for me, I know there will probably be a lot of things that are new this year that I will experience, but the thing I want to start off with right now is actually my hair, and it actually looks pretty good right now. But if you've watched any of my previous videos for the past month or so, every time I've washed it, I've put in all that effort to styling it, and then it turns out really frizzy, it turns out really flat, the volume just isn't there anymore, my curl definition has gone away, it's really stringy in places, and it's really kind of started getting to me. So my goal with the beginning of this new year is to kind of diagnose what my hair problems are and what might be causing it to really just lose its luster. Because I had a lot of really good wash days last year. I just feel like recently it just hasn't been as good. So my goal for the next few videos is to take some time to diagnose what my hair problems are, to see if I can find out what's going on with my hair, and hopefully to help all of you diagnose any problems you might be having with your hair too. I think a lot of us might be going through this, and if you aren't at the beginning of the year, you may at some point, or maybe you have in the past. If this is my first video that you've landed on, welcome to all my wonderful wavies and my curly and coily coterie. My name is Lena, and welcome to my bathroom, and hopefully you'll like and subscribe for future videos like this. Let's go ahead and get started. I do actually have a few theories as to what might be going on with my hair. If you've seen the video that I posted a few weeks back on the main mistakes that we're making with maintaining our healthy hair, I did touch on this a little bit, but I have not cut my hair since August. It is definitely in need of a cut, and not cutting your hair for such a long time can definitely take a toll on it. Now, my hair is relatively healthy, so it hasn't taken as much of a toll on it as it would have if my hair was really damaged. And surprisingly, I really don't have that many split ends, but there is definitely some splitting going on the bottom. And then not only that, but if you wait so long between haircuts, your cut grows out and it kind of looks wonky. Like you can see this piece here is just sticking out. The shape is just not right anymore. It's grown out in a really funny way, and I think I just need to work on the shape of it. So I do intend to do that at some point. I will be cutting my own hair, so keep an eye out for that video if that's something you're interested in. The other thing that I do want to discuss further in today's video that could potentially be going on with my hair is the moisture protein balance. And when it comes to the protein moisture balance in our hair, I think a lot of us don't even give it that much thought. For me, my biggest struggle, especially when I first started off on my journey to healthy hairs, I kind of just reached for a set of products and then stuck with that for a long time. I didn't really switch them up. I didn't change them out. The downside is that if the balance isn't right in those, you could end up with moisture overload, or you could end up with protein overload. If you watched the video that I posted a while back, I did go into a little bit more detail on hair type and how you can know what your hair type is. But depending on your hair type, this could change what your balance is going to be. Someone with a higher porosity hair is going to need more protein. Some people are going to need to reach for less. So if you have low porosity hair, you may not need as much protein. Keeping this in mind, I do want to go into this in a little bit more depth and talk about the moisture and protein overload and how to recognize those and how to know if you're one way or the other. And then I will use my own hair as a test to diagnose and see if one of those is my issue. So let's go ahead and get started on that. Unfortunately, a lot of the symptoms of moisture and protein overload are actually very similar to one another. Both protein and moisture overload will express themselves in frizzy hair and a change to your curl pattern. Your hair may start being more frizzy, and you might end up noticing that your hair is losing its shine. And if you're noticing any of these things or all of these things, chances are you're suffering from either moisture overload or protein overload. For protein overload, the main differences are the feel of your hair. This is where it really comes in handy knowing what your own hair normally feels like. Because if you have protein overload, your hair is going to feel a lot more dry than normal. It's going to feel very brittle. And it might even start to feel a little bit more straw-like. And the other thing that you want to keep an eye out for is just breakage. If your hair is really overloaded with protein, it's going to break a lot more easily. Now, on the other side, if you have moisture overload, your hair is going to actually feel very, very soft, almost too soft. And this can be kind of hard to notice because we all want our hair to feel soft, but it can actually be too soft. And the way you're gonna know if it's too soft is in a few different ways. One, it almost still feels damp, regardless of how long it's been since you dried it. Not only that, but when it's still wet, it's going to have kind of a weird gummy feeling to it. A few other ways you can tell if it's moisture overload is if you are struggling to get a cast. If you used to get really good gel casts with the gel that you're using and you're no longer getting those gel casts, or they're a lot softer than they used to be, this might be a sign that you are struggling with moisture overload. Now, on the other side, I know I mentioned that if you're struggling with a protein overload, it makes your hair more brittle and likely to break. But on the other side, if you're struggling with extreme moisture overload, what we call hygral fatigue, this actually could also make your hair break, because hygral fatigue is when your hair is way too over moisturized and is causing the cuticles of your hair to swell and then close. And this actually does cause a lot of damage to the strands and will make them more likely to break. So if you're noticing more shedding when you're detangling your hair, that could be a sign again of either protein or moisture overload. Another few things about moisture and protein overload that you might notice, and this depends on your hair type, but for me, when I'm struggling with either one of these, I start to notice that I'm getting less volume. And if I do get volume out of my hair, it goes flat really quickly. So if I shake it out after getting rid of that cast, I do notice that it doesn't stay fluffed for very long. The other thing I do notice on my own hair when I'm struggling with either protein overload or moisture overload is that it's much harder to refresh the next day. So even if I did get a good hair day, the next day it's going to be really hard to get it back to that shape. If this list of things isn't quite enough for you to decide whether or not you have protein or moisture overload, there is another simple way that you can test your hair. What you want to do is you want to find one hair on your head. It doesn't matter where, you just want to find one. And you're going to wrap it between your fingers. You want to get a really good hold on this, and you're going to pull. The result that you want to see if your hair is healthy and normal is it's going to stretch a little bit, and when you let go, it's going to bounce back. If you're struggling with a protein overload, your hair is going to just snap. If you're struggling on the other side with a moisture overload, it will stretch and stretch and stretch, but it won't return to its normal shape. Either that or it will stretch and stretch and stretch and break if you're suffering from hygral fatigue. So if that is more helpful, try that test to determine if you're struggling from any of these. So now that we know what moisture and protein overload are and how to recognize them, let's take a look at my own hair here and see if we can figure out what's going on. I think even since the beginning of the video, my hair has decreased in volume, so we've seen that. And I can tell you that I do struggle to refresh it. It doesn't really refresh very well the next day. I'm going to get in close here really quick and just show you what my hair looks like, how it turned out this time. I have noticed more frizz. And again, I will say that my hair actually turned out really good this time, which is surprising to me because I haven't really done anything different. So I don't know if it's just a spoof, but from the past month, I have noticed that frizz. I have noticed a decrease in my curl pattern. They're not quite as curly as they used to be. A lot of it, I know right now underneath actually looks pretty good. But the past several washes, most of it has looked like this. And you can see if I come in a little closer here, a few of those strands look good, but a lot of them are really flat. It's kind of stringy. They're not clumping as well as they used to. I used to get really good curl clumps, and my curl clumps just aren't there anymore. So is it protein or moisture overload? Because as of yet, we haven't really determined which one it could possibly be. Well, you're going to have to kind of just take my word for it, but when I feel my hair, it feels very soft. And regardless of how long it's been since I dried my hair, it almost always perpetually feels just a little bit damp. It also seems to me that when I've been blow drying my hair, it takes longer to dry it than it used to. Now, maybe it's just the weather. Maybe it's something else completely different. But to me, it seems kind of like I'm struggling from moisture overload. And this honestly doesn't really surprise me that much. A while back, I did do a video, like I said earlier, on how to diagnose your own hair texture and type. And in that video, I did talk about those with low porosity hair need less protein. And it kind of made me wonder, my hair is low porosity. Maybe I was actually using too much protein. So I did dial back a lot on that protein. I haven't been using nearly as much. And I think I've realized that I just need more. So if you are struggling from moisture overload or protein overload, what can you do about it? I don't want to go into too much detail about it right now because I will be doing another video where I myself walk through these steps and see if I am struggling from moisture overload. But very briefly, if you are struggling from either one of these, or even if you think that you might be, the first thing that you want to do is you want to clarify your hair. Really wash your hair and strip it to make sure that any product you put on it has the best chance of penetrating the hair. And then after that, you want to reach for some sort of deep conditioner. Now, depending on what your problem is, whether it's moisture overload or protein overload, you'll be reaching for different products. But if you have moisture overload, you'll be wanting to reach for protein treatments. On the other side, if you have protein overload, you'll want to reach for a deep conditioner that's very moisturizing, that doesn't have any protein in it at all. And then once you've deep conditioned your hair, you'll want to review your lineup of products and see where it's lacking. So as I said, I have taken most of the protein, if not all of the protein, out of my lineup. So what I really need to do is start introducing that back in. You don't necessarily need to use them every wash, and that is the thing, is you're going to want to kind of do some trial and error here. And that is the unfortunate thing, but also kind of the exciting thing about having curly hair, is it takes a lot of trial and error. So if you've been working with products that work for you for a long time and suddenly don't, it might just be that you need to introduce something new into your routine. When it comes down to it, there are a lot of things that could be the cause of my hair not doing what it used to do. It could be these things I've mentioned here. It could be the lack of protein in my product lineup. Maybe I need to review that. It could even be maybe I'm just using products that are too heavy for my hair. It could be that I need a haircut. It could be that I changed something in my drying techniques that caused my hair to stop really responding as well. I know I did take plopping out of my routine. That could be part of it as well, because I did plop today, and maybe that's why my results today were better. Over the course of the next several weeks, my intention is to run through several of these things and see what it could be. See if I can help you diagnose your own hair issues as well. So if you would like to see this, like and subscribe for future content. Comment below if there's anything specifically you would like to see. If you would like to see me cut my own hair, let me know. If there's something else that I haven't even mentioned that you are curious if this is going to affect your hair, let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see if I can do a video on that as well. Keep an eye out for any of these videos over the next few weeks, and I will see you next time.